Family and friends gathered at a Covington church today for the funeral of St. Tammany and Washington Parish District Attorney Warren Montgomery. He died recently after battling cancer. Sabrina Wilson has more.
From near and far, people made their way to Most Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Covington. They came to say their final goodbye to St. Tammany and Washington Parish's District Attorney Warren Montgomery.
I know in many ways, Warren is a friend, a dear friend. One, working with him on various campaigns as he was running for office. And one, because he made himself such an active part of this community.
He was a very good gentleman. I knew him from the Tea Party, knew him from after that.
Mike Cooper is St. Tammany Parish President.
Warren was an incredible individual, an incredible public servant. His primary goals were bringing truth and justice to St. Tammany Parish and Washington Parish.
Montgomery died November 10th at the age of 68 after battling cancer.
We were very good friends, strong supporter.
He said they had lunch together 3 weeks ago.
He seemed very bright with hope that the new treatment might work, so he was in great spirits and he never stopped fighting.
Montgomery was elected DA of St. Tammany and Washington parishes in 2014, but before that he also worked as an assistant U.S. attorney in New Orleans, and he also was employed in the private sector as VP of the ICE Corporation, and his friendships stretched across decades.
Most of my adult life through politics, but also our parents were good friends. Father put icy in at Pontchartrain Beach back in the day.
Leaving friends like former New Orleans City Councilman Jay Batt with fond memories.
Public servant, husband, father, lovely family, and just as a great loss to the community in St. Tammany for the whole region. We need more quality people like Warren Montgomery, and it's sorry to see him leave.
And many of the people I spoke to who knew Montgomery well said he was a man of tremendous faith.
Fellow Christian and just a very humble, very good man.
He touched so many lives.
Montgomery is survived by his wife of 38 years, Valerie, their 5 children, other family members and friends. Interment was at St. Joseph Abbey Cemetery. Lee.
All right, Sabrina. Warren Montgomery was reelected to his second 6-year term in November of 2020. A special election will be held to fill the remainder of his term. Qualifying begins December 13th. The primary is set for March 23rd with an April 27th general election.